thing I knew, there was this knock at my car window, and it was the badge, and they took me to jail.
Johnny Cash worked with everyone: Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, and even Bob Dylan. But after one explosive night, he drew a line. The star he refused to work with again had been a friend. They toured together, shared stages, and then came the betrayal. It wasn't about money or fame. It was personal. Cash never spoke the name publicly. He just quietly removed every photo, every recording, every memory. His band knew why, his family knew why, but the truth stayed buried until now. Johnny Cash was born on February 26, 1932, in the small town of Kingsland, Arkansas. His real name was J.R. Cash. His parents, Ray and Carrie Rivers Cash, were poor cotton farmers who struggled to survive during the Great Depression. This was one of the hardest times in American history. The economy had collapsed. Jobs were gone. And families like the Cashes often didn't have enough to eat. From the start, Johnny's life was shaped by poverty and hardship. Every meal mattered. Every penny counted. These early struggles gave his music a deep, honest power that people felt in every word he sang. When Johnny was 3, his family moved to Doss, Arkansas. This move was part of a program called the New Deal, started by President Roosevelt to help poor families. The Cashes got a small 5-room house and 20 acres of land to farm. Life in Doss wasn't easy. The family worked long, hard hours in the cotton fields. But they had a chance, and that chance meant everything. Growing up in Doss, surrounded by families fighting just as hard to survive, taught Johnny about strength, loss, and the value of hope. All of this would stay with him forever and fill his songs with meaning. At home, his mother Carrie taught him folk songs and gospel hymns. These songs became the heart of Johnny's music. They weren't just tunes. They told stories, offered comfort, and brought light during dark times. Johnny loved the simple, powerful words and the deep emotions in these songs. The lessons he learned at his mother's side shaped his voice and his style. The hard life around him added a truth to his music that made it stand out even in his earliest days. When Johnny was 12, something happened that he never forgot. His older brother, Jack, was badly hurt in a sawmill accident. Jack died from his injuries a week later. Johnny was crushed. He loved Jack and looked up to him. To make things worse, their father blamed Johnny for not being with Jack when it happened. The pain, the guilt, and the loss stayed with Johnny all his life. These feelings found their way into his songs about sorrow, regret, and the search for peace. Music became Johnny's escape. Even as his family struggled, he sang at church, at school, and for neighbors. He sang gospel, folk, and any song that told a story. His deep voice and heartfelt style made people listen. These simple beginnings helped him grow as a performer and laid the path for what was to come. At 18, Johnny joined the U.S. Air Force. He served for 4 years during the Cold War, mostly in Germany. His job was to listen to Soviet radio messages and decode Morse code. It was hard, serious work. One day in March 1953, Johnny was the first American to hear about the death of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. He passed the news up the chain until it reached President Eisenhower. It's almost hard to picture the future man in black, headphones on in a quiet room, catching world-changing news before anyone else. While stationed in Germany, Johnny bought his first. Johnny Cash bought a guitar for just $5. He and a few friends formed a band called the Landsberg Barbarians. They played at military dances and on the radio. Johnny started writing songs, too. One of them was Folsom Prison Blues. He wrote it after seeing a film about the prison. That famous line, "I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling around the bend," came from those lonely nights overseas. By the time he left the service in 1954 as a staff sergeant, Johnny had his dream set. He had songs, a style, and a drive that couldn't be stopped. After finishing his service in the United States Air Force between 1950 and 1954, Johnny Cash came back to civilian life with nothing but ambition and a restless heart. He settled in Memphis, Tennessee. The city was alive with music, but it offered little comfort for young veterans like him. He took a job at an automobile factory, but the work felt empty. He quit soon after. Then he tried selling vacuums and kitchenware door to door in the sweltering heat. Rejection followed him everywhere. Many nights he went home broke, pride crushed. Yet all this hardship shaped his art. His struggles gave him a deep understanding of the working poor. That raw empathy would later pour into his music and make it stand out. By 1955, Johnny's life changed. He was desperate to escape dead-end jobs. So, he gathered the courage to audition for Sam Phillips at Sun Records. This was the same place that had launched Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis. At first, Johnny sang gospel songs, but Sam wanted something new. Johnny picked up his guitar and, with the Tennessee 2, delivered his stark, haunting sound. Songs like Hey Porter caught Sam's ear. That day, Johnny got signed. From that moment, he was part of the rock and country revolution. His stripped-down style would become his signature, unlike anything else on the charts. Between 1955 and 1956, Johnny released songs that would make him a star. Cry, 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 Hey Porter, and Folsom Prison Blues introduced the world to his deep voice and simple music. Just a guitar, a bass, and a snare drum. Folsom Prison Blues shocked listeners with the line, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." The honesty struck a nerve. Then came I Walk the Line in 1956. The song stayed on the country charts for 43 weeks and hit number 1. It even crossed over to pop, reaching number 17. Johnny's mix of strength and vulnerability drew fans who felt like he was singing their lives. By 1957, Johnny Cash was the biggest name in country and western music. His records outsold all others. What made him different was his focus. He sang for the poor, the prisoners, the outcasts. His songs spoke of railroad workers, factory hands, and men behind bars. People heard their own struggles in his music. He became more than a singer. He was a symbol of hope. On stage, he kept it simple. Every concert began with the same words. "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash." Then he played Folsom Prison Blues. No flashy moves, just the man in black, singing for those who felt forgotten. His shows felt like gatherings of kindred spirits. In 1958, at just 26, Johnny moved his family to California. He bought Johnny Carson's house in Encino for $75,000, hoping to break into movies, but his marriage to Vivian was already in trouble. The move didn't help. Hollywood's temptations and pressures only made things worse. His film dreams flopped. His home life became strained and lonely. By 1961, he moved again to Casita Springs, hoping for peace, but his troubles followed him. Around this time, Johnny's personal life took a dark turn. He became close to 16-year-old singer Lori Collins. Their relationship stirred whispers and concern, reminding people of the scandal that had nearly destroyed Jerry Lee Lewis. Friends stepped in, warning Johnny of the danger, but his recklessness kept growing. It all started with a handful of pills in 1956. Johnny was exhausted from endless touring. Someone gave him tablets that looked like aspirin. They were amphetamines. That night, the drugs made him feel unstoppable. Soon, he was hooked. The pills kept him going at. First, the pills seemed like a gift, but they also began to control him. By 1957, Johnny was taking them regularly. He added barbiturates to help him come down. The drugs that once seemed like a gift became his curse. As Johnny's addiction grew, his marriage crumbled. Vivian tried to hold the family together, but Johnny's wild behavior and long absences broke her spirit. She never felt part of his music world, and the distance between them widened. Between 1959 and 1968, Johnny Cash was arrested 7 times. The charges were wild and varied. He got in trouble for public drunkenness, reckless driving, and drug possession. But one of the strangest arrests happened in Starkville, Mississippi. It was May 11, 1965, after a show at Mississippi State University. Cash was drunk and wandering the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning. A cop spotted him picking flowers in someone's yard. It sounds harmless, but his behavior was so disruptive that he was arrested for trespassing and disorderly conduct. In the jail cell, things got worse. He kicked the door so hard that he broke his toe and ruined a $40 shoe. The night haunted him so much that he later turned it into a song called Starkville City Jail. Cash's most famous arrest came later that same year. It was October 4, 1965, in El Paso, Texas. He had just crossed the border from Juarez, Mexico, where he went to buy cheap amphetamines. U.S. narcotics agents stopped him at the airport. They thought he was smuggling heroin. Instead, they found 668 dexedrine tablets and 475 Equinol tablets hidden in his guitar case. The picture of Johnny Cash, the man in black, in handcuffs, shocked his fans. That night in jail, he felt crushed. He later admitted, "I just want to stay here and die because I'm too weak to face everyone." His wife, Vivian, rushed to El Paso to support him. In the end, because the pills were prescription drugs, Cash got a suspended sentence and a $1,000 fine. But the damage to his image was done. His outlaw legend only grew stronger. A few months before that, on June 27, 1965, Cash caused one of the worst disasters of his life. He was drunk on a fishing trip in Los Padres National Forest in California. Either his camper's faulty exhaust or a campfire he didn't watch set the dry brush on fire. Flames spread fast, destroying 508 acres across 3 mountains. The fire wiped out 49 of the last 53 California condors, one of the most endangered birds on Earth. At first, Cash tried to dodge responsibility. He even faked being sick to skip a court hearing, but the truth caught up with him. He was fined $82,000, which was a massive sum in those days. He didn't seem to care about the damage. When confronted about the dead condors, he said, "I don't care about your damn yellow buzzards." That cold remark added to his bad reputation. Not every night in jail was about destruction. Sometimes it was just strange. One time in Carson City, Nevada, Cash shared a cell with a huge lumberjack who didn't believe he was really Johnny Cash. The man grew angry and threatening. To calm him down, Cash sang his hits all night long. The lumberjack never believed him, but eventually fell asleep. Cash made it through the night without harm. By 1967, Johnny Cash's life had fallen apart. The pills he once took to handle the stress of touring had taken over his world. He swallowed so many amphetamines and barbiturates that his body began to give up. His throat became so dry and ruined that he could barely sing. He had to cancel shows and recording sessions because his voice was gone. He called himself a walking vision of death. That wasn't just words. His friends saw how thin, weak, and wild he looked, but many thought it was just nerves. Few saw how badly the drugs were killing him. Cash kept ending up in hospitals and even in jail. The man once known for his strong voice and fiery songs was now close to losing everything. In October 1967, he reached the end of his hope. He felt alone, broken, and sure that no one cared anymore. The pain of the drugs, the guilt of letting people down, and the fear of never singing again crushed him. In his book, he wrote that he didn't want to see another dawn. This wasn't a moment of sadness. He had decided to die. His fame, his money, none of it mattered anymore. He believed that death was the only escape left. So, he went to Nicac Cave. This dark, endless maze of tunnels near the Tennessee River had a history of hiding outlaws. Some said the cave stretched all the way under the mountains to Alabama. Cash planned everything. He wanted to crawl so deep that no one could find him. He would let his flashlight go out and stay there until the cave became his grave. He walked and crawled for hours. When his light finally died, he lay down in the dark and waited for the end. But as he lay there, something happened. In the silence and the blackness, he felt his sorrow lift. The loneliness that had haunted him disappeared. He felt God's presence. Cash realized he was not in control of his death. He would leave the world at God's time, not his own. Even though he hadn't prayed before, he believed that God had come for him anyway. That thought gave him strength. He felt a soft breeze and decided to follow it. Slowly, he crawled back toward the entrance. After what felt like forever, he saw light again and made it out alive. When he came out of that cave, June Carter and his mother were there. They had come looking for him, feeling something was wrong. Cash told them what had happened. He promised to quit the pills. That day became the turning point. He went to rehab. He fought through the pain of withdrawal, and he leaned on his Christian faith to keep going. By November 11, 1967, he was clean. He performed sober for the first time in over 10 years. Johnny Cash and June Carter met backstage at the Grand Ole Opry in 1956. The spark was instant. Both were married at the time, Cash to Vivian Liberto, with whom he had 4 daughters, and June to Edwin, Rip, Nix. What started as a powerful physical attraction soon turned into something deeper. They were bound by their shared Christian faith and love for music. But their relationship was far from simple. It was full of secrecy, guilt, and wild emotional swings. Cash's growing drug addiction, his endless touring, and the public's constant gaze only made things harder. June, lively and outgoing, became his guide through the madness of fame. Cash, shy and quiet, leaned on her strength. But their closeness hurt their families. The affair, once hidden, slowly became known. It broke hearts, especially those of their children. As Cash's fame grew in the 1960s, so did the pressures. The tours never seemed to stop. The cameras were always watching. Cash struggled with it all. He hated the spotlight and felt crushed by the demands. June was his lifeline. She handled the chaos. She kept him going. She even saved him during drug overdoses and after a terrible car crash that left him with a broken nose and missing teeth. But their bond came at a steep price. Vivian filed for divorce in 1966, unable to bear the betrayal and the destruction caused by drugs. Their daughters carried the pain for years. And yet, through all this, Cash and June's love only grew stronger. In 1968, they married. Their partnership would last a lifetime and change both their lives forever. Their marriage marked a turning point. On March 1, 1968, when they said their vows, it wasn't just about love. It was the start of Cash's rebirth. June's steady support helped him fight his demons. With her by his side, he found the strength to stay sober and rebuild his image. Together, they lit up the stage, hosting the Johnny Cash Show and singing duets like Jackson and It Ain't Me Babe. Fans saw their chemistry and felt their truth. June helped shape Cash into the man in black, a symbol for the forgotten and the poor. Their love story became legend, later told in the film Walk the Line. It turned Cash from a fading star into a cultural icon known for resilience and compassion. In that same year, Cash made a bold move that shocked the world. On January 13, 1968, he played 2 shows at Folsom State Prison. The album Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison became a smash hit. It topped the country charts and hit the top 15 nationally, even though his label barely promoted it. The single Folsom Prison Blues shot into the top 40, and won him a Grammy in 1969. The album's raw sound, cheers of inmates, and clanging doors felt real and urgent. It sold over 3.4 million copies in the US and was later named one of the 500 greatest albums of all time. In 1969, Cash did it again at San Quentin. These prison albums did more than entertain. They showed America the harsh reality of life behind bars. Cash became a hero to prisoners and a voice for change. What's remarkable is that Cash, despite his outlaw image, Johnny Cash never spent more than a night or 2 in jail, but he felt connected to those locked away. Inmates began writing to him after hearing Folsom Prison Blues. He answered, performing first at Huntsville Prison in 1959, even when storms cut the power. For over 30 years, he played in prisons without pay. He did it because he saw himself in the prisoners. He knew that, but for a twist of fate, he could have been one of them. In 1972, he stood before the U.S. Senate begging for prison reform. His words and music changed how people saw inmates. He showed that they too deserved dignity and a second chance. Cash's compassion reached beyond prisons. In 1964, he released Bitter Tears, Ballads of the American Indian. It told the brutal truths of stolen lands and broken promises. The standout song, The Ballad of Ira Hayes, told of a Native American war hero who died broken and forgotten. Radio stations tried to silence the song. Cash fought back, calling out cowardly DJs and Billboard and mailing the song to over 1,000 stations himself. His stand worked. The song hit number 3 on the country charts. The album reached number 2. Today, Bitter Tears is seen as one of the boldest protest albums ever made. Cash proved again that he would use his voice to fight for the voiceless. On April 17, 1970, something unforgettable happened at the White House. That was the day Apollo 13's astronauts made it safely back to Earth after a terrifying ordeal in space. President Nixon called it the proudest day of his life and of the whole country. That night, Nixon welcomed Johnny Cash to perform at the White House. But this wasn't just a concert. Nixon had a plan. He hoped that having Cash sing would help win over Southern voters at a time when protests against the Vietnam War were shaking the nation. Cash, with his country roots and clean image, seemed like the perfect fit. Nixon's team asked Cash to perform 3 songs. One was his hit A Boy Named Sue. The other 2 were Merle Haggard's Okie from Muskogee and Guy Drake's Welfare Cadillac. These songs were popular with people who disliked the hippie movement and mocked welfare recipients. Cash agreed to sing A Boy Named Sue, but he said no to the other 2. At first, he said it was because he didn't know them well enough and didn't have time to rehearse. But later he told the truth. Those songs, he said, were filled with hate against the poor and against people fighting for change. They went against everything he stood for. Instead, Cash chose his own set list. He sang 12 songs that night. Some were his own, like What Is Truth, which defended young people and their right to question authority. Others included the Ballad of Ira Hayes about a Native American war hero who faced racism and Man in Black, where he explained why he dressed for the forgotten and the oppressed. He even included gospel songs. When Cash sang What Is Truth just 10 feet from Nixon, it was like he was speaking straight to the president's face, challenging his views while staying calm and respectful. Johnny Cash's life was full of moments like that. Moments where he stood up for what he believed in, even when it wasn't easy. But his wild side showed up, too. In the 1950s, during a stay at a hotel in Omaha, Nebraska, Cash decided to pull a prank no one would ever forget. He bought 500 baby chickens and released them, 100 on each of the hotel's 5 floors.